If then we were to think along these Nietzschean Marxist lines of the inner social relations generating an idealism which, as it were, prescribes a particular relation and attitude towards the world, towards matter, towards production, towards real life, ordinary life, reproduction, then we have to hold that the cosmic idealism that India seems to have, since at least the Upanishads, must also be then seen as generated as an outcome, as a product, as a reflection of the internal social relations. We already know that the yajna from the Vedic period was getting privatized, that the sacrifice would no longer be a real sacrifice of in blood and flesh, but now the prana becomes important, that you can substitute for the real yajna, for the real sacrifice. So in a way, the more stable kind of private household emerges. So the Vedic rituals are now going to be having a more symbolic meaning, and they're more like allegory, they're more like metaphors. So if the meaning of prayer actually involved the Indra coming on the chariots, now you do not actually expect, you don't think in those terms that Indra is coming on a chariot or something, right? It is purely symbolic, so symbolic that you forget the etymological, substantive, material meaning. So one is this kind of an idealism that has come, which is a change in the way in which one relates to the divine, for example. The other is the emphasis on renunciation, through which we arrive at idealism, at cosmic idealism. There's nothing called a pure philosophical materialism here. It is very much a materialism which is a response to internal social contradictions. Now, as far as the Purusha thing is concerned, that we have it in Sankhya philosophy, that it is out of Purusha that the world came, or people will refer to the Purusha Sukta in the 10th mandala of the Rig Veda, that that we have this idealism again, that this world is nothing, it's coming out of the Purusha, the original man with a capital M. The M is as capital as it can get, right? Now that is actually to be not understood as idealism in a proper sense. It is because that is something to do with the culture of sacrifice that we had in ancient civilizations or prehistoric civilizations, even including the Aztecs and the Incas and a lot of other civilizations, which Georges Bataille, for example, was very interested in that, the sacrifice of the humans, not just the lowest human, but the most high value human would be sacrificed. So it is only with the sacrifice of the best, of the most valuable, that you have, that you try to answer the debt that you owe to nature, to the sun particularly. So a lot of the Aztec sacrifices were to the sun. You know that the sun gives us so much light and energy and life, and so we also pay a debt to the sun. So it is not really then to say that. So it is in that sense that that this world is there, that we also have sacrificed to get this. You know, that's also the way I think you give value to what you got, the bounty of nature. You know, so it was more like that. It is more like paying your debts. You know, so it's not idealism in that sense. So I think it's a later interpretation that even the Purusha ideal, even Sankhya philosophy gets appropriated into this idealism. So I think we should keep that aside. But if you just talk about the cosmic idealism, I think it gets it later gets treated as though it is a philosophical materialism, idealism. You know, that it is a contemplative kind of idealism, which is like a philosophical position that an intellectual would take. Oh, like, are you a philosophical, are you an idealist or a materialist, you know, between philosophers. But I don't think this idealism was really that. This idealism was more like the way Nietzsche talks about the way the ascetic ideal emerged. So it is not a intellectual kind of position that you freely take in an academy, you know, in a university or something. It is not a middle class deracinated intellectuals trying to just take one side or the other. No, it is, I think, something which is produced by society. So the cosmic idealism already then involves in India, you know, the Jivatma, and then the Paramatma, you know, and then Tattvamsi, or Aham Brahmasmi, you know, that I am that. You see, so this is these things that we keep quoting from the Upanishads are part of this cosmic idealism, but this is a cosmic idealism adopted by those who kind of escape the tight world of the Vedic ritual, where there was no space for this kind of an idealism, where there was no space for renunciation. In that sense, the entire culture of radical dissent, which say today liberals would talk about freedom of speech, that you don't agree with the majority, you know, that kind of a thing is also then linked back to the path of renunciation available in ancient India. So it's connected to that you treat this entire world as Maya, and you go for the real thing, which is the Brahman, the consciousness of the Brahman. So when Vivekananda then talks about universal brotherhood, love, humanity, and how Vedanta, Advait Vedanta has all of it, you know, he's basically repeating the ideology of the ascetic ideal. He's basically repeating, you know, what Marx stresses in the kind of idealism of capitalism, which stipulates that all that is solid melts into air. It's all Brahman, you know, because it's very easy to show how Vivekananda's universal love and humanity derived from Advait Vedanta is actually about the valorization process in capital of value, begetting value, and which is what allows actual portions of total social labor to get to hold value, that and that is the way in which um, in which uh, the exploitation of labor power takes place, because the exploitation of labor power is not the same as the exploitation of labor, right? The distinction between labor and labor power is very important. So when Vivekananda is then talking about Advait Vedanta and the notion of Brahman or Aham Brahmasi or Tattvamsi as the basis of universalism in this world divided by race and all kinds of narrow sectarian identities, he just subscribing to a particular kind of idealism, which is already thrown one for Marx by capitalism itself, and secondly, if you refer to Nietzsche, to the rise of the ascetic ideal and the rise of a particular kind of priestly ruling class, which also includes modern science and democracy and all of that. So it is. So Vivekananda's Vivekananda's philosophy really, in that sense, became popular within modern capitalism, or among nations, or among thought leaders and all of that, because it kind of is very materialist philosophy in this sense, that it talks about universal love, brotherhood and humanity by completely eliding over the actual concrete indices, verticals of oppression, of exploitation, that you have a system in place where all the kind of particular forms of life and activity, all our actions have become subservient to thought, right? What Foucault was saying, right? That the modern cogito is really about that we all become subservient to that. So you might declare this world as Maya, the doctrine of Maya, which Vivekananda defends, but that is only a way of making sure that what happens in this so-called world of Maya, this illusory world, should always be kind of be controlled and appropriated by those who talk about the cosmic mind. It is a way in which you make sure that the chains of bondage are well maintained. So on the one hand, you can kind of despise, or you can take a position as though you don't really put your money on the real world, it's all illusory, it's Maya. But at the same time, you have made sure that it is precisely by saying that we should rise above this narrow particularisms, which would be the particularism of just not just of sectarian strife, racial identities and all of that, but also the particularities of activity, of labor, of productive life. Um you have to rise above that, and that is how the universal is parasitic on this. So you, in a way, efface that. You in a way efface the the parasitic relationship that this cosmic idealist universal, the Advait Vedantic universal, has with the particularisms. So in a way, the doctrine of Maya, rejecting this world as Maya, is actually a way in which you ensure that you get what you want out of this world. You extract the surplus from labor, and still act as though you are, of a more noble mind and a higher cut, and you never cared for these products. You never cared for the proceeds of labor. It just so happened that these things just fell on in your kitty, in your bank account. So this kind of now maybe this is slightly different interpretation of the Nietzschean ascetic ideal, that it is not just slave morality, but even he would not just say that it's slave morality. He would say that the ruling classes themselves are now playing the slave morality card, right? So even the slave holders then would play the slave morality card. So for example, if the early colonizers, the conquistadors, when they went to the Caribbean, what is today Haiti, they were killing Tainos, but then the Jesuit priest La Casas, wrote that long account on the destruction of the Indies. I think East Indies, I think it's called, and that and then he said, I am appalled but what Columbus and his people are doing, the way they're killing the Taino people, the Taino indigenous people, right? And then later we saw that they said, oh, this is horrendous, and that's where it is like, you can say, that claim to now human rights, that, oh, we cannot be doing something so bad, right? Which then they stop. They don't stop totally like using the Tainos, but they just want to replace them with slaves from Africa. So now already they're talking about high moral values, no? That we have some moral values. So we will now just use slaves from Africa. Now later they will say, oh, but we will still get slaves, but not so many, or we will not exploit them so much, or maybe we'll only get men, not women, So there's always this claim to being virtuous, right? So we totally find that. So that's where things are.